Welcome to tonight's episode of Main Chats as we dive into the conversation of hair porosity and how it plays a role in the health of our hair and just really understanding what is porosity and how some of the products that we use or the maybe the lack of the ones that we are not using that we should be using that can help kind of bring down our porosity. Hi, Miss Gloria. And we are as strangers as they come. I know, right? But not after tomorrow, we won't be strangers. We will officially not be strangers. Like, we've been knowing each other on the internet for like 2 years. I've seen your daughter graduate high school and go off to college. I've seen you have a new baby. So we're definitely not strangers, but we'll definitely officially unite our sisterhood tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to it. So yes. All right, so Pandora done put us on a commercial, so that is an indicator that we are just going to go ahead and shut that down. So welcome to Main Chat live stream. I am your host, Coach Trail. I go through this spiel like every week, y'all, but I have to remind myself that someone is going to view this Main Chat live stream for the first time, and they're gonna be like, "Who is this girl? What is she talking about? And what make her qualified to sit here and tell somebody about their hair?" So I just want to give a little formal intro. Hi, Joe. So again, my name is Coach Trail. I have been natural for almost 14 years, sometime in this year, like August, September. Um, but my natural journey really for me really began about 2 years ago. I stumbled across the brand Curl Mix, their four-step wash and go system on how to perfect the wash and go and master your curls. I originally bought the products for my daughter because she wanted to wear her natural hair, and I could not send her out in the world looking like a hot mess because, we could see the curls, but I couldn't get them to stay. That was the problem. Like, I couldn't get them to stay, and I didn't want to just lather her hair in like gel. So we found Curl Mix. I did her wash and go. I was amazed. I was a protective style, braids, plaits, quick weave, sew-in type of girl. That was just me. I took my braids out and I did the wash and go, and I have been wearing wash and goes ever since, and that was August of 2022. That they say that around October, November that I mastered my curls. And so I applied to be a curl coach for the Curl Mix brand. And as a curl coach, you go live. You coach a masterclass for 21 days. You go live 3 Sundays out of that 21 days, and you show the newbies, OGs, everyone in between how to master their curls using the Curl Mix 4-step wash and go system. We were doing midweek check-ins where we would kind of do a live stream like this, answer questions, give you nighttime routine tips, morning routine tips, refresher tips, all the tips that there could be shared. But most importantly, outside of that, we learned to love our hair. And in the midst of learning to love our hair, we learned how to properly take care of our hair and how to understand our hair. And my second coach, which was Coach Janet, she introduced us to her acronyms as the D steps. And those D steps, which I have talked about on quite few of these episodes, and if you're not sure what I'm talking about, then I highly recommend that you go back and check out some of those episodes 1 through 8, because we are on part 9 tonight, and catch up on the D steps. So she introduced us to the D steps, and there is when I really began to build my foundation on my hair, which is sunflower. I really began to build my foundation, and I just became more curious about just my hair, how to love it, how to care for it. We were having conversations about hair, and so I just took my curiosity a little bit deeper and started researching and Googling and buying books and all of these things and just reading up on hair. And so from there, what we're about 2 years in, I've coached about 4 or 5 master classes. I can't remember. But my first was in February of 2023, and I coached maybe two or three, 2 classes in 23, about 3 classes in 24, maybe. And this year, as of right now in 2025, we have not had a master class. They're on pause. But in between time, I know that not everyone is curl mixers, so I wanted to create a space where I could share the knowledge that I've learned from my curl mixers, my coaches, and just my own experience, my own research. I wanted to share that with those that are not in the curl mixers community and have access to the sisterhood, the community, the information that we have, and share that with anyone that is willing to listen. And so I created P.A.C.E Curly Coaching, where we embrace all textures, curls, uniques with patience, acceptance, consistency, and education. And those were the things that I felt like I needed to really take control of my natural hair journey. I needed to be patient with the process. I needed to be patient with my hair. A lot of us get into our natural hair journey and we expect instant results. And honestly, nothing great happens overnight. So being patient, accepting my hair and where it was in the state that it was, and going from there, coming up with a plan. In the midst of that plan, being consistent. A lot of people I see, especially with products, we use them 1 or 2 times and we're like, the product doesn't work. And maybe it's not that the product doesn't work. Maybe we're just not giving the product enough time. Maybe we're not being consistent with our routine. Maybe our hair is not in the space where it's willing to accept those products and the beauty that it brings to our hair. And then education, educating ourselves on our hair, unlearning a lot of the myths and untruths that we've heard about natural hair, but also welcoming in a lot of new information in this new age of technology and information of our natural hair. So that's where P.A.C.E Curly Coaching came in. And I wanted to be a resource to those that needed support, that wanted one-on-one assistance, that needed hair guidance, product recommendations, all of those things that some of us are in need of, but we don't know where to go. We've done all the YouTube and TikTok and home remedies, and it's still not working. And so, in the midst of that, I wanted to share this information, not just text it and make posts, but I wanted to, speak lively. And so I created Main Chat Live Stream. And here we empower you with tips, tricks, and truth about caring and embracing for your natural hair. And so whether you are a newbie, a seasoned natural, or somewhere in between, my hopes is that you feel inspired, um, uplifted, and educated, and maybe even have a little laughter along the way as we talk about our natural hair. So that is my intro spiel. So thank you guys for joining me. If you are just joining, let me know where you are checking in from in the chat. Let me know what we are sipping on. Get your favorite snacks, your favorite drinks. I always try to have some water, which I'm going to take a sip of now, because all of this talking do make my throat a little dry. And then I have my Caducin Mega Green Juice that I actually quite like. It reminds me of the Green Machine smoothie that they sell. Very good, very tasty, a lot of health benefits into it. So let's get into it. So let's talk about porosity. This was one of those words. For one, it's in our D steps. So it is the P. So DSTEPS. So we've covered pretty much all of the D steps except for porosity. So we're wrapping up those D steps with tonight's episode of porosity. And if you did not know what your density is, if you don't know what your surface texture is, if you don't know what your because there's a difference between your surface texture and your actual texture, far as the width and diameter of your hair strand. We talked about scalp, we talked about elasticity, so all of those things we have covered. So here we are. So what is porosity? Again, that was one of those things that I learned about in the curl mixes group from Coach Janet. And actually, Curl Mix have a Curl Mix University on their webpage, and they were talking about porosity and how to do the hair porosity test and all of those things. And in the beginning, it was a bit confusing. Some people you will hear say that it's not important to know your hair's porosity if you're not getting like chemical treatments or if you're not relaxed. But for me, I disagree, and we are all entitled to our opinions. And one of the things that I also like to share is that there's no one size fit all when it comes to caring for our hair. Everything does not work for everyone, and some things that work for one other may not work for you. So the thing is, take the information that applies and see how it works for you. And if it does not apply, put it back where you found it. Take the things that you need, leave the rest. Hi, Patsy. That's my other girlfriend. She gonna be here Friday, y'all. Okay, I can't get off topic, y'all. We're gonna be here all night talking about this. But so there's no one size fit all. But there's beauty and wealth in sharing information. So there may be someone that may be having some struggles with their hair, and they're like, I done did all of this. I don't know what to do. And just having just a source of information. And I always encourage everyone, do your due diligence when you are getting new information or you're getting products or recommendations. Like, don't just fall for the hype and just go buy it or book it or whatever. Like, do your research, do your research and see how that may benefit you in a positive way. And if it don't, then find something that does. So, what is porosity? Porosity refers to the hair's ability or inability to absorb water or chemicals into the cortex. Porosity, it varies by the condition and the shape of the hair's cuticle layers. A lot of those things a lot of this that I'm talking about as far as your cortex and your cuticle layers, we have discussed them more in details. But our hair has there's different layers of it, and that cuticle layer is that is the outside part that of our hair shaft that we can feel. Those are the cuticles. They're kind of like the shingles on the roof that kind of lay on top of each other. Those are our cuticle layers. Inside of that cuticle is a cortex. And within the cortex, some of us may or may not have a medulla, which is those people that have thicker or coarser hair. Some of us don't have that, but that's just the different layers of the hair. So the porosity, it varies on the condition and the shape of the hair's cuticle. When the hair faces a traumatic styling event such as chemical relaxing, excessive heat, color treatments, those things affect the cuticle. No matter how safe you try to do it, it's going to affect the cuticle in some shape, form, or fashion. And in the midst of doing that, that affects our hair's porosity. And that is because the protein structure, which our hair is made of, I can't remember. I think it's like 92 different proteins or 72 different proteins, but it's a lot of different proteins that our hair is made of. Our hair is made of mostly of protein. And so when we do all of these traumatic things to our hair, it disrupts the protein structure, and which attacks the protective cuticle layer of our hair, and it becomes compromised. So that's what our hair porosity is. It's the abilities of your hair to absorb or inability to absorb water or chemicals. And so the older part of our hair is the ends. And the ends of our hair has a higher porosity than the root. So the age of the hair plays a factor in the porosity of the hair. So the older the hair, the higher the porosity will be compared to the root, because that's the newest, that's the new hair. That's the most recent hair, because our hair grows every day. So but the so our porosity, it increases as we move from our roots to the ends of the hair. And so the older so again, the oldest parts of our hair is, it has a higher porosity, or you might see the words like porous, which is small holes within the hair, which allows water or air to pass through. So when we are talking about a increased porosity over time, when you have high porosity hair over time, the cuticle layers, they are cracked, they peel, and they lift, and it makes it harder for the older hair retain to retain water. So there are basically three levels of porosity. You have low porosity, you have a normal porosity, and then you have high porosity. When I started to learn about my hair and its porosity, I was based off of how my hair was responding to water. I had low porosity hair, and when you have low porosity hair, your cuticle layers are tightly closed, resisting water from entering the hair strand or the cuticle layer. Um, and or color treatments, because there are sometimes when you go to get your hair colored and your hair will not receive the color. That is because the cuticle layers are extremely tight, and it's like, nope, you is not coming in here, I'm not allowing you. And that's kind of what the hair does with water. But after you continue to work that water in, over a extended period of time, the hair will eventually give in and allow that water to absorb. And low porosity hair is common in black, tight, coily hair, especially if it is not chemically treated or color treated. So low porosity hair, you are going to have a longer, harder time getting your hair to absorb the water. So high porosity, that basically your hair will absorb water and moisture very quickly, but just as quickly as it absorbs it, it dries out. And that is because it's the opposite of the tight cuticle layers. Your cuticle layers are open, they're swollen, and so things are just passing through and sliding out, passing through and sliding out. And so that can be caused by heat styling, chemical treatments, using sulfate rich shampoos, and excessive exposure to the sun. So all of these things are excessive, that will excessive damage over extended periods of time. So that's high porosity hair. During that phase, the hair may feel swollen, puffy, and rough when it is dry. And then a normal porosity, it takes the hair a few minutes, it takes the hair a little bit of time to absorb the water, but once it absorbs it, it retains it, it holds it in. And then of course our hair loses moisture or hydration every day. So you may have gone from, my hair dries out after 2 days, versus once you have a normal balanced porosity. You can go 7 days, maybe even 10 days without you feeling like my hair is like bone dry and it's just, So that is why when I talk about wash day routines, I always say the goal for me is to wash my hair every 7 days. But life be life in some time. And so you might have to go 10 days. But try not to go over 14. Like go 7 to 10 days. 14 is the max. Like you pushing it at 14. Like you're pushing it. So that is a normal porosity, balance moisture retention and absorption of the hair. So let me know if you have any questions before I move on, and I'm gonna take something to drink because my throat getting dry. Let me know if you have any questions. It says it's got sometimes I feel like my comments be delayed. Oh, I was gonna say, what does BRB mean? Be right back. Y'all, I'm so lame when it comes to like these abbreviations, when it comes to like texting and little things like that, because I don't be knowing what they be talking about. I have to ask my kids like, what does this mean? All right, so that's our hair porosity in a nutshell. Let me make sure I didn't leave nothing out. Okay, so how do we correct high porosity? Because having low porosity, I would rather have low porosity hair than high porosity. Because low porosity hair, it just means that your cuticle layers are tight and they don't want nothing to get in. I would rather for me to have tight cuticles than to have blasted cuticles or lifted open cuticles where things are coming in and coming out and it can't retain anything. So let's talk about how to bring down the high porosity hair. Let's figure out how can we close our cuticles, because for one, that's not healthy for your hair. And so when we talk about how our porosity plays a role in the health of our hair, if you have high porosity hair, meaning that your cuticles are lifted, they're swollen, you cannot retain moisture. Let's talk about how can we combat that. So remember last week, which was part 8 and part 7, we talked about our pH, our how our hair pH affects our hair. So when I mentioned about using sulfate rich shampoos, that's a high pH. High pH, remember we talked about it lifts the cuticle, it opens it up. So switching from high sulfate rich shampoos to maybe more moisturizing shampoos, more lower pH shampoos. Um, Especially if your hair is not in a healthy state, maybe avoiding like those chemical treatments, avoiding heat stylings, different things like that. Your product choice. I only know about the Curl Mix brand because that's all Sunflower has been exposed to 99.9% of the time of these last 2 years. So I know that the products that I use with Curl Mix, they're low pH products. But there may be products out there that you may be using that are not, that you don't know if they're high pH products, if they're low pH products. You feel like they may not be working for your hair. You can go by limiting. Let me see. Litimus, LITMUS papers or pH strips, and you can test your products. You can test your product pH, and you can see what that pH level is. And if it's a high pH product, for your stylers or your shampoos, your conditioner. Well, conditioner should be on a low pH. We talked about how our shampoos are higher pH, but using pairs, meaning that they're the same brand shampoo and conditioner, The conditioner should bring down the pH of the shampoo. So being conscious about the type of shampoo and conditioner that you're using, making sure you're using the same brand. Testing your stylers, whether it's your moisturizers, your leave-ins, your creams, your gels. Testing those things to see what their pH level is, and if it's a high pH and you already have high porosity hair, then that product is really not doing you any justice for your hair. So testing your products. And then when you're using low pH products, it's going to slightly tighten those cuticles over time. Tighten and constrict your cuticles. So, being conscious of the type of products that you're using could be affecting the health of your hair. Um, so, we talked about the challenges of having high pH. I'm talking about high pH. I'm talking about pH. High porosity hair, which is absorbs excessive water, causing swelling and puffiness of the hair, retains less moisture, and when dry, due to the damaged cuticle layer. So using those low pH products to tighten the cuticles help to reduce your pH. Incorporating again low pH shampoos and treatment routines to help manage your porosity. So once you start incorporating low pH shampoos, you're doing your treatments. You have to do, especially if you're like this is if you've been experienced excessive um, your cuticles and your hair's not absorbing moisture, like that is not going to be a one time, two time fix. That consistency is what is going to bring those cuticle layers down, especially if you're like color treated, because anytime you cause any type of disruption to the cuticle, like you have to do treatments and bring them down. Deep conditioning, incorporating moisturizing, um, humectant products that is going to like allow the hair to really try to absorb and lock in the water. But that's something that's going to take time. It's not going to happen after like 2 or 3 washes. It's the consistency that's going to get you there. So now you're like, okay, I know what porosity is. I know what I should look for. So we kind of didn't talk about what it looks like to have low porosity hair. You know, we talked about having like tightened cuticles, but what does that look like when you're wetting your hair or when you are applying your products? So when you have low porosity hair, meaning that your cuticles are extremely tight and it's not letting nothing in, when you wet your hair, the water is not going to just absorb into your hair. You might see like beads for like where you spray the water at or wet the water, like the water's kind of like bouncing off. It's like resisting it. It's like bloop. Or you spray it and then you see like beads, the water beads on the hair. That's an indication that you have low porosity hair. But over time, if you continue to wet the hair, and I tell the curl mixers when I'm teaching the master class that when we're talking about hydrating your hair, because we always say like before you get into shampooing your hair, saturate your hair. And a lot of people be like, okay, and they're just standing in the shower and they're just letting the water just run on their hair, and it's like that. Yes, you're letting the water hit your hair, but it's just bouncing off. Like work that water in. I don't want to say force it, but when you start working the water in, the hair will begin to absorb it. Um, I want to say in part, I think it would be the part 4 of 5. I think it was part 5. Nope, part 4 when we were talking about understanding our hair structure. There's a layer within the cuticle layer called the endocuticle. And that is a layer within the cuticle that is responsible for allowing water to enter your hair. And so it's kind of like you have to work it in there and let the cuticle know, like, hey, I want this to be in there, and it'll begin to allow it in there. And as you do that over time, consistency in your wash day routines, it won't take as much to get that water into your hair. And then I don't know, for me, I would say about 6 months. It took about 6 months for my hair to really like cut down on my saturation time. I started with 10 minutes, and when I say 10 minutes, I'm standing in the shower, I'm working the water in my hair, I'm working in small sections, and in the beginning, 10 minutes wasn't enough. I had to bump it up to 15 before I can really see a difference. And so, doing that for about 6 months, that 15 minutes went down to 10 minutes. And then within a year's time, like now, it takes my hair about 5 to 7 minutes to fully, like, for my hair to really become wet and all the products that I've used rinsed out of my hair, and I can go into my shower, into my wash routine. So over time, the hair will begin to respond better to the water. Hair naturally resists water. Just I think it's hypophobia. I think that's the word. It naturally resists the water, but over time it will begin to, be friends with it. But that's what low porosity hair looks like compared to high porosity hair. High porosity hair, you can go in the shower, put your shower head right, and your hair's like drenched. It's flat and it's just soaking wet. And the moment that you come from under that shower, you're like, oh my god, like my hair is bone dry. Like literally, that's what that's like. When you're in the shower, under the shower head, your hair is completely wet. The moment you come up, it's completely dry. So imagine when you're putting your moisturizers and your leave-ins and all of that. Like it's really not retaining it. It's going in and coming right back out. So that's why it's important to kind of start to use low pH products that is going to start to smooth that cuticle and allow it to constrict itself. So we talked about how to, now when we were getting ready to talk about how to check your hair's porosity. So one way is going into the shower. Going into the shower, getting your hair wet and seeing how your hair responds to the water. Is it taking forever for your hair to absorb the water? Or as soon as you get in the water, it immediately becomes wet and then it's bone dry. So that's one way of testing it. This method I personally haven't tried, but you can, it's called the touch test. And so you're basically getting a strand of hair and you're starting from the end and you're working your way up, because remember the ends of our hair is the oldest part of our hair. So depending on when the last time you had a haircut, the last time you had a trim, the end of your hair may feel rough. It may feel bumpy. And then the goal is to kind of slide your fingers up the hair shaft, feeling to see what that hair strand feels like. Is it bumps? Do you feel like there's different textures? Those are indicators of high porosity, compromised cuticles. You can do the water test. Now this was the first porosity test that I did. When I said like the water test, the demonstration was to basically take a strand of hair and put it in a glass of water to see whether or not if it's going to float or if it's going to sink or if it's going to stay in the middle. But it was so much information that was missing from that was not communicated until like well after the fact, after I had them plucked out strands of hair to see how to do the water test. So I don't recommend it because for one, I don't recommend plucking out hair now that I know that, our hair naturally sheds. We talked about our shedding cycle. That's a natural phase of our hair. But if you pluck out a piece of hair that is not ready to shed, it takes about 130 days for that hair to basically repurpose. I mean, not repurpose, but regenerate. I don't want to pull out no necessary hair, but I didn't know that in the beginning. So when you know better, you do better. So I don't encourage no one to do this. So that's what I was doing. But no one told me that I was supposed to do this on like clean hair. So I'm pulling out strands of hair that probably got product on it. So who knows what this hair is going to do. So it's advised if you are going to do that, make sure you do it on clean hair. Um, no one told me or told us, or I wasn't informed, that different parts of your hair can have different porosities. So I might pull out a strand from here, but this porosity up here might be different from this one back here or on the sides. So that's not one that I would recommend because I did it and I don't feel like I got the accurate information that I needed. So going in the shower, actually like watering, I don't want to say watering, but spraying my hair or weighing down my hair with the water was really the best indicator for me. So those are three ways that you can test your hair's porosity: the touch test, um, the water test, um, or the strand test. I don't recommend a strand test because I don't want nobody to pull out any strands of hair that they shouldn't be pulling out. So yes, so that is understand our hair's porosity and how it affects the role of our healthy hair or not healthy hair. Yep, yep, yep. So just to kind of recap, because starting from the beginning, we were talking about building our foundation, and so we covered the scalp. That was part two. Because part one, it was more of the introduction and how all of this came about, kind of the same spiel that I kind of give like the first 10 minutes of the show. We covered the scalp. That was part two and part three. Um, Part four and five, we talked about our hair fiber and structures. That's what we talked about: our hair structures, our cuticle layers, the makeup of our hair, how our hair is made. We talked about our essential elements, characteristics of our hair, um, all of the characteristics and our properties. Kind of what the last um, 4 to 5 parts have been about, and so this is kind of the end of that foundational understanding our hair part. So I do highly encourage you all to definitely go back and check out the different parts 2 through 9, which is tonight's episode. They are actually currently still on my page. So if you just stroll down, you should be able to find them so you can kind of catch up. And so on next week's episode, we're going to be talking about building a strong foundation for achieving and maintaining our healthy hair. So we've got a lot of understanding of things. So hopefully in the midst of these last couple of weeks, we have been doing some assessments on our hair, taking pictures, taking notes, kind of just documenting how our hair responds, what it's doing, incorporating some things that's working, taking away some things that are not working, so that we can now start to build a foundation of achieving and maintaining the health of our hair. So that is my main chat live stream for tonight. I hope you guys were able to take something away that you didn't know, or tag a friend that may benefit from any of the information that I shared on tonight's episode, or not just tonight, but any of the main chat streams in the past. I really do enjoy you guys coming and joining me every night. Well, not every night, but every Wednesday. Being patient with me, engaging with me. I really do appreciate that. But make sure you share this live for me. Tag someone. Share the information. Sharing is caring. And, when we learn something, I think it's important that we share with the next person because we never know who it may impact. So that is my spiel for tonight. I don't see anything in the comments, no questions. So I'm going to take it that you guys are already educated on porosity. But you might know somebody that's not. So share the live, tag a friend. And until next time, I'll see you in the next one.